It's sort of breaks it down, the precincts and townships.
No, that's canvas.
Oh.
Ran for Lincoln, Josh Phelps. He took my spot. That was 12 years, yeah. When I'm getting out of the party. Getting out of the party.
Oh, the precinct part?
In the central committee, and I'm done.
Oh. That's probably pretty tough.
Thinking different.
Oh, I was gonna say something, but if you want, I mean, so just so you're aware, and Aaron and everybody can participate in it, but the Safety and Wellness Committee is sponsoring a National Root Beer Float Day. So if you would like one, Amber can hook you up.
So we brought in today's National Root Float Day. So we brought in supplies for 150 root beer floats for all the people. We're downstairs in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
We can make you one. I just didn't want to bring you guys one at night.
No, we can get it. So if you would like one, yeah, we can do
We
that.
included you guys in it.
Thank you.
Level. This is church sheet.
Are you done, my packet?
I didn't know if Lynn wanted to look at.
Oh, yeah, I'll look at it.
Okay.
No, go ahead, give it to her.
Open.
Sort of like
It's like church. It's like church, you have to come early for a back row seat.
All right, we'll go ahead and kick off the study session. I think, Martin, it's gonna be you today.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to me today. We're going to have a 1-hour presentation on the Kansas Open Meetings Act. It'll be up there on the TV. I do not have copies for everyone, but I think I have 8. So if there's big clamoring for copies, you have to ship. All right, you're welcome to take one at any point. Because we're trying to get 1 hour in here, I will admit I erred on the side of probably over including materials and slides, and just to ensure we get there. But if we're kind of getting through it and it looks like we're going to leave a lot on the table, I might skip through some of the slides just to make sure we cover some of the main topics. I'll talk about COMA, which obviously means the Kansas Open Meetings Act, not CORA, which is the Kansas Open Records Act, although I'll touch on that briefly to the extent that it intersects with COMA. I prepared this specifically for you as a 3-member county commission. There are some idiosyncrasies related to that and what it takes to violate COMA when you are only a 3-member commission. But some of the concepts are better illustrated with a larger body. So I'm going to use the Planning Commission, which has 7 members as an example for that. And everything I'm going to talk about would apply equally to any governing body or advisory board or board underneath you. So I've tried to tailor it to you, and feel free to interrupt if you have questions about how it applies to you. After we get through some of the basic concepts, I'm going to have lots of hypotheticals to kind of show you the good, bad, and ugly of COMA. Throughout, you're going to see this concept. 2 is the number. That is important here. We're dealing with a 3-member commission because 2 is the majority. And really that means that if 2 of you are talking outside of a public meeting, that is a meeting. And it's probably not open. It probably hasn't been formally noticed by the clerk. So I'm going to repeat that just to drill it in. The overarching premise of COMA, of course, is that public business should be done in front of the public. You ran to serve, not to memorize a set of statutes, but I would encourage you to read them at some point. If you were to print all of them off, it would probably be less than 10 pages. It's probably 5 to 6 pages if you put it all on one page. So you may be asking, how do you come up with 72 slides to talk about this. A lot of the COMA guidance is comes from AG opinions and court opinions. I have been doing municipal law for 15 years, and it never fails. We will always encounter something that is not directly addressed by the statutes. It happens all the time. And so historically, there's a process to ask the Attorney General for an opinion as to how COMA should apply to a specific set of facts. If you see an issue coming, and they may issue a written opinion that other municipalities can rely on. The other way to learn is through enforcement actions when the AG's office actually enforces it against a municipality and publishes that decision. And then, of course, there's case law. So all of that, it's a big body of law, even though it's a very small act and set of statutes. Most violations are well-meaning, good faith accidents. Honestly, there's a lot of really easy ways to inadvertently violate COMA. And I think the AG takes all of that into account when they're looking at alleged violations. What's good faith? On one end of the spectrum, there's an accidental error or a lot of accidental errors. On the other end, there's an intentional act to subvert the open meeting requirement, to deliberately deprive the public of seeing what's happening. And that's where you get into real trouble. I don't want to say what will happen for any violation because it's not up to me, but I think that's the type that you should really strive to avoid among all else. So as a county councilor, I'm here to help you understand and comply both proactively and kind of in the moment in a meeting and an executive session. So always feel free to reach out and I can be a resource. Go ahead, next slide, please. Okay, quick roadmap for today. Obviously, the overarching premise is that a meeting must be open. So it's kind of critical to understand what is a meeting. After that, who is covered, what is covered, and what is notice and openness required. Because a meeting must not only be open, but we must have notice and it must be open. So once all that is in place, we'll move on to some of the real risk areas like electronic communications, executive sessions, and then talk about enforcement and some best practices. And again, I think you are somewhat unique as it relates to your 3-member body. And that means that you'll need good instincts when you're talking to each other outside of a public meeting. So, okay, you can go to the next one. Okay, COMA was enacted in 1972 by the Kansas legislature. Kansas courts have described it as, at that time, announcing a state policy to ensure the existence of an informed electorate. There is no common law right or just inherent right under the law to have open meetings. We have this requirement in Kansas because the legislature said so by adopting the Open Meetings Act. Again, it's really not a long set of statutes, probably less than 10 pages if you were to print it off. And it's evolved, it's amended sometimes, and I'll talk about some of the more recent amendments. It's evolved not only through legislative amendments, but just interpretations by courts and the Attorney General's office. One of the more recent substantive amendments has to do with the definition of a meeting. It used to be a majority of a quorum, and then in 2015, it was changed to a majority of the body. So that doesn't really affect you because you're a 3-member, and you're going to have a majority of the body anytime 2 of you are conversing. For a 5-member board, that would have made a difference. So the Kansas Supreme Court, that's a quote out there, the representative government is dependent upon an informed electorate. And I'll talk a little bit about how COMA applies to electronic communications, but it has evolved over time to deal with those, including changes to deal with serial meetings, which are effectively meetings outside of all of you talking at once. And it's more of a daisy chain where you're effectively having a meeting. Again, I'll talk about that here more in a minute. One point I would make, coma has no impact on you in your personal life. It doesn't put any requirements on your personal private conversations. It's when you are talking about public business with a fellow commissioner. You don't lose your private life, but it does affect how you talk to each other and how you interact with each other. Courts construe it very broadly in favor of openness. So anytime there's a close call, it will be the AG or the courts will construe it against you. And one other point I'd make is you rely quite a bit on others to help you comply, including myself, including Janelle and Jennifer. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the Attorney General has enforcement authority against you. And if I make a mistake by not intervening in an executive session and it violates coma, you get in trouble, not me. I may get in trouble in other ways. So likewise, I think, as we talk about minutes, for example, here in a little bit, coma requires certain formalities with respect to minutes. So it's important that you look at those from a coma compliance standpoint when you approve them, because ultimately the buck stops with you as in the AG guys. And so we do our best, and I think do a good job of helping you with that, but just kind of a warning. Okay, so what is a meeting? Obviously, coma only applies to meetings, and it has 4 elements. You can read them up there. I won't read them to you, but a gathering or an assembly doesn't have to be all in the same room or all in person. It has been interpreted to be through any interactive medium. It can be on the phone, text, some sort of encrypted messaging platform. Can be anywhere by a majority of the membership. So that's where I really want to drill down. That's just 2 of you. So no formal vote is needed to have a meeting. There's no consensus needed to have a meeting. It's literally, if you're just talking about county business between the 2 of you, that is a meeting under coma. It can be on the sidewalk outside of the building. It can be during a recess of your meeting here out in the hall. It can be literally anywhere. So I think I've kind of already drilled this down. You're going to see it throughout here more, but the significance of this is, as we'll talk more in a minute, anytime there's 2 of you talking, it triggers all of the requirements of coma, which means notice and openness. And if you are talking to a fellow commissioner outside of a formal public meeting, there's absolutely no way that Janelle and Jennifer are going to anticipate that and put out notice of it. Certainly no way that the public can come participate and observe that. So that's why that's just pretty much always a violation and difficult to defend if we're talking to each other outside of the meeting. So go ahead, Janelle. Obviously, you can do the math here for your body. For a 5-member board, like the city commission, for example, that would be 3. So it becomes harder to violate that. In that situation, 2 commissioners can technically talk to each other about city business. You create a risk, because if one of them goes out and relays that view to a third, you're now bringing a third in. But that's why you're so vulnerable as a 3-member board. And with everything you do, there's just so much tension in needing to try to deal with it, but you've got to deal with it in an open public meeting. Okay, go ahead now. So here, just applied to the planning commission, for example. Again, it's a lot easier for them to have conversations just one-on-one, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, as long as they don't involve at least 4. So, there for the planning commission, and I'm not encouraging this at all. I don't think commissioners should involve a lot of their fellow commissioners in group chats or anything like that. But just to illustrate, 3 planning commissioners could technically talk about a conditional use permit over coffee, and that is not a COMA violation. It can easily become one if one of those three goes out and shares their views with the fourth. Obviously, if four members get in the text, that is textbook violation. We'll talk about violations and some of the AG's enforcement options later, but I would note that they do have full investigatory powers, including subpoena powers, which could mean a subpoena for your personal emails, your phone records, your text messages, if the need arose. You know, you hope to never get there just because of not violating it, but also just cooperating. But that is always a risk that those things could become public through the AG's subpoena power. There at the bottom, I have an example of the serial meeting concept where, you know, let's say A talks to B, B talks to C, and then C talks to D, and it's all intended to reach a consensus by at least one of them. That is a serial meeting by that one person who intended to reach a consensus.
So the recommended advice would be just don't do it.
That's the recommended advice. I think, you know, it becomes a risk spectrum. You can't do it here at all. When you get into a larger body, there's examples of 28-member advisory boards created by school districts, for example. That would be very difficult to violate unless you're intending to kind of hide your discussion. But my advice would be keep business discussion open. If you want to talk to one, I'm not going to tell you you can't, but it creates risk every time somebody does it. And that's kind of why if I email you, I'll typically say please don't reply all, because if you reply all and say, I agree with this, I plan to vote for that at Thursday's meeting, now all of a sudden you've kind of got a consensus forming. And if someone else then responds, you've got two people effectively saying how they're going to vote and no one else can see that. So that's kind of why we do that and say that. Obviously, it's not a meeting or a violation if you run into a fellow commissioner at a restaurant or for coffee and you just talk, how's the weather, you know, how you doing? If you start talking, how are you going to vote on that data center moratorium? That's a clear violation because now you're triggering a business discussion. Okay, go ahead, Janelle. I think I just gave that example, so you can go ahead. Okay. This is kind of an extension of that, but you know, same deal. You run into each other in the bathroom and just you probably shouldn't talk about any business here. Exchange pleasantries and leave in the bathroom. Clearly not a COMA violation. So I think you got that point. Move on. This COMA applies to not only the commission itself, but also committees, subcommittees, boards like the planning commission, like I described, and other subordinate groups. One of the key requirements is that either the parent group is funded in whole or in part with public funds, or the subordinate group is. So clearly, the county commission is funded in part with entirely with public funds, as is the planning commission. It gets a little bit trickier and surprises some people when it's applied to advisory boards or advisory committees. So, you know, there's need sometimes to appoint a task force to study a particular issue, maybe get some citizens with expertise in a certain area. That is technically a subordinate group and would be covered by COMA. So that catches some people off guard sometimes because those meetings technically need to be noticed and the public needs to have an opportunity to participate. What is not a meeting is staff. So you could, as you often do, delegate research to Janelle and Jennifer and Marcus or other department heads. They all get together outside of your Thursday meeting and talk about it and deliberate. Those are not those are not meetings within COMA. They're not formal task force created by you. They're just here to carry out their functions and serve you. And the reason for that, of course, that an advisory committee would be covered by COMA is that you can't really delegate to be done in private what is supposed to be done in public. Yeah, we'll go to the next one. go to the next one as well. Just keep moving through some of these topics. Okay, so electronic and serial communications. This is a big area that I think people inadvertently violate COMA, and it's easier to do. On the next slide, you'll see here's the test, and I would say that this isn't as applicable to you because really, if just one of you texts the other about county business, that's a meeting. It gets a little more applicable with like the planning commission, where maybe one of them isn't intending to build a consensus, but they reach out to B, and then B reaches out to C, and then C reaches out to D. As long as one of those three or four is intending for their message to build a consensus or reach an agreement, that creates a serial meeting. So the elements are, it collectively involves a majority, and it shares a common topic about county business, and it's intended to reach an agreement on a matter that would otherwise require action in an open meeting. The intended to reach an agreement is probably very difficult for anyone to prove, but that's still an element. And so if some planning commissioners reach out to each other, and then over the course of days, they run into another commissioner and share what they learned from the previous conversation, all of a sudden that starts coming close to a serial meeting. But the key element is one of them has to intend to reach an agreement, and that's a highly factual inquiry. Go ahead, Joe. So obviously staff is here to help you, and you need to and should talk to them about things that are of interest to you or before you. But COMA does not allow staff to really work behind the scenes to effectively figure out and share how each one is planning to vote. You can't really cure a serial communication by routing it through staff. And, I think if the three of you independently have a conversation, share your views, that is completely fine, and I would encourage that. But, if it's so-and-so is going to vote this way, so, we're almost there, we just need you to vote there, that is effectively subverting the openness requirement of the public consensus building that COMA requires and is not allowed. So staff can distribute neutral facts, and they just can't really be behind the scenes whipping up votes trying to get everybody where they want them. And go ahead, Janelle. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, go back down. Okay. So this is just an example, maybe a little more complex, but let's say a 7-member planning commission like we have. There's a controversial conditional use permit for a battery facility. And this is an example of using a conduit to violate the Open Meetings Act. If Planning Commissioner A calls up the zoning administrator, says, I'm a no, find out where everyone else is. And then the administrator does that, relays the concerns, and calls A back and says, you've got 4 no votes, you're good to go. That is an example of a serial meeting that, as I mentioned at the outset, there's kind of a spectrum of violations. That would be a pretty egregious violation because it's not really an inadvertent thing. It's somebody intentionally trying to build votes and a consensus outside of a meeting. Okay. I guess really quickly going back to that, it would be completely fine for commissioners on the planning commission to talk to the zoning administrator, share their view, even say I'm a no or I'm a yes. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, that's not discouraged. It's that intent to use the zoning administrator as a relay.
So Aaron, yeah, while we're on this one, so let's say we're at county fair and you've got a lot of the planning commission in one place and a member of the public were to reach out to, and there happens to be 3 members of the planning commission there. And so they have an opinion and they share that with them, and the planning commission kind of gives them some feedback. Then let's say that person happens to see 3 other planning commission members at the other side of the fair, and they talk with them separately. And this is just a member of the public, but then they go back, that member of the public goes back and shares that information, with previous commitments with that. How does that work?
I think you'd have a pretty good defense to that because the intent to reach an agreement was not present by any of the commissioners. You've got a private citizen that's acting as a conduit. And so really for a serial meeting to occur, one of the decision makers has to intend to reach an agreement with the majority. So as long as it could be shown that the first 3 were not intending to reach an agreement with the majority, it doesn't really matter that the private citizen was out there trying to do that. I think it's vulnerable and it's bad optics, obviously. It doesn't look good. I'm not saying, but that intent element, that's what I'm saying. That would be difficult to prove for the AG.
But then if we replace, say, the member of the public with the zoning administrator, then he went back to violation, then you would have.
The intent, it belongs to the planning commissioner.
Yeah.
And so as long as they did not intend to, that's why in my example, where Commissioner A says find out where everyone else is, that's the intent element that is fulfilled there.
So if the planning commission member told the member of the public to go and get the information for them and then brought it back,
Yeah.
then you're talking about.
Yeah. It's highly fact specific, and I mean, you could, that's where you get into, well, let's subpoena your text messages, and now it's technically, if you really wanted to prove intent, there's not a whole lot of, I may have an example. I'll have to look here. I printed a couple examples off, but it would need to be pretty egregious, I think, for that to be proven that one of them intended. Consensus there. But again, not encouraging that type of conduct, just kind of showing you the boundaries of where it actually is a violation. Okay. This is just another quick example. Let's say there's a rezoning request on the planning commission agenda. Member A emails member B, I'm leaning against it. And then B forwards A's email to C and D and adds A as a no, I agree, are you with us? That is another violation because again, they're trying to, that member's trying to build a consensus. Okay, go ahead, Janelle. Really quickly here, I think we've made this point, but the medium of exchange doesn't matter. It can be in any format, any technology. And just because you're using.
I'll ask about this. So if we got an email the other day, and can you reply just thank you? Is that a violation?
No, that's not.
Thank you for the update. I mean, it's just easier when you.
That's not a violation. That's not. So again, that goes to the element of.
Not looking for
Discussing
consensus,
business.
just saying, hey, I got your message.
Yeah. That, if you're talking about serial meeting, one of the elements is it relates to something that would otherwise require binding action in a public meeting. Saying thank you is not anything that requires a public vote.
I just want to make sure.
That's good. And we say don't reply all just because it creates a fertile ground for someone to say something and it's more just best practice, not because you automatically violate.
That makes sense.
I have a quick question. With coming into county commission meetings in the mornings and the door shut with 2 commissioners in here, is that a violation?
I don't want to speak to specific facts. I would say we'll get to the openness requirement. I trust that the conversations that are happening in here are not about county business. But our best practices, we can talk about that when we get to the openness requirement and just making sure the optics of that practice don't. Okay. Okay, go ahead to the next one. Okay, I think I've already made the point. Medium medium doesn't really matter. And I'm just skipping through this so we can cover everything. Okay, so we've talked about what is a meeting and who does it apply to. So if you've got a meeting, that triggers certain requirements under COMA. The core rule, I would say, is pretty short. You got to give notice of the date, time, and place of any regular or special meeting. And it must be furnished, well, you got to give that notice to anyone who has requested notice. And Kansas is not you must notify the whole county system. It's a request-based actual notice requirement. So we would keep a list of anyone who has requested notice. And we got to make sure that people on that list receive the required notice. In Kansas, we don't have to give one-on, one-off notice for every regular meeting that is held at a fixed, regular, predictable time and place. A standing notice can suffice. So I don't know if we still give a notice to everyone every week before the Thursday meeting. We've got
Just on our calendar.
Yeah, we've got a standing notice. But when we have special meetings, it's important that anyone who has reached out either verbally or in writing and requested notice, that we send them notice of the time, place, and meeting for obvious reasons. And that would apply to an adjourned meeting. You know, if you need more time for an item and during this meeting you say, let's adjourn this until Friday at noon when we can all reconvene, you would need to resend notice to anyone who has requested notice so that they have the opportunity to come and participate.
Now
So-
that, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Now, when they request to be on a list, is that good forever or is it yearly? Because I was on yearly.
So we can require that the request be made on an annual basis.
Yeah.
However, before we revoke it on the basis that it has expired due to 1 year, we have to give them notice that, and so we could do that at the outset, I think.
Give
I'd
notice,
wanna
give
look,
notice.
but, you know, so you can't just say, thanks for giving us notice, we'll give you notice, and then silently revoke it. You need to say, either when they sign up or at some point, we're not planning to give you notice anymore unless you ask for it on an annual basis, would be the best practice there. So again, that's an example of something you rely on others to comply with, but if it were not fulfilled, the AG would look to you for the violation. So I think that's particularly important on special meetings to ask, has this been properly noticed? The notice and the agenda are different, obviously. COMA does not actually require an agenda, so you don't really even have to have an agenda, at least under COMA. But what COMA does say is that if there is an agenda, it must be available to everyone who asks for one before the meeting starts. And that agenda must contain items that you reasonably expect will be on it. It's very common to amend an agenda at the outset of a meeting because something has come up. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. However, if it could be shown that it was intentionally excluded to subvert anyone seeing it and to maybe swell the crowd in attendance, that would be a problem if it could be proven. Obviously, that notice requirement cannot be fulfilled if two commissioners are talking out in the parking lot. That would be a meeting, but Jennifer has no way of knowing that they should notify the public to gather around you to watch that conversation. So that's why those types of conversations out in the parking lot are just automatic COMA violations. So three ways to kind of blow the notice requirement would be, special meetings called and maybe a local reporter and some residents that previously asked for notice, but they don't get it. That's a COMA violation. Another example would be you reschedule the meeting to a time and place that hasn't been noticed out to people who have requested notice. There's an example in the area of county commission for the last decade or so of what they did was they were having a meeting and then they adjourned it to go tour a facility. And a couple problems with that. Number one, they adjourned it, which means the meeting is done. What they should have done is recess, which means the meeting is still open, so it's been properly noticed up. But what they did was they toured the building and did not let the public follow them. So you had county commissioners going in, touring a building, presumably talking about business, but the public wasn't allowed to accompany them. And I think there were good reasons. It was believed to be dangerous, but that's kind of one that most people may not even be thinking of, but you got to think about that whenever you're maybe taking a field trip, a car ride, anything like that. Okay, go ahead.
It might be the one you're referring to, but I think is another county and they were going to look at a building, and what they kind of put out there is, well, there's not enough hard hats.
Yes.
And so then all of a sudden that kind of became an issue of safety, but also,
Yep.
you know, should there be provision made,
Yep.
or I guess part of the discussion is let one commissioner go in with a couple of members of public and then let another one go in.
Yep. That would be, that's a tricky one. I think there were probably legitimate reasons for not, just from a safety perspective, but it's an example of an inadvertent violation.
And you might be getting into this, but what if there's a situation where it's a little bit of an emergency? And so the word gets out, whether we receive a text or we just hear that something's going on here. So we, as a commissioner, feel we should either show up at the emergency site or here. Is there a protocol to follow on that?
Like a disaster.
Yeah, USC situation.
Yep.
Yeah, the COMA doesn't address that. I think, I think on the spectrum of reasonableness, if the three of you were out saving somebody's life and we're talking about county business doing that, that would be looked at a little bit differently. But COMA does not address emergency situations. There's no relief valve for it's okay to have a closed meeting as long as these criteria are satisfied, other than an executive session. But I think if there's an emergency that brings you all out to help, absolutely you can do that. You can do it side by side. You can all hold the same shovel. It's just talking about county business and trying to reach a consensus on county business is where you get in trouble. I don't think you'd be doing that in that situation. You would just be doing the right thing.
And not likely to happen, but
No, that's to be
remotely possible.
Yeah, there's really no exceptions. Okay, I think we covered that,
So is it
We
better,
call the sheriff anyway, so it's easy.
Yeah.
is it better not to ride in the car together?
That's obviously fraught with peril, and the optics of it are horrible if three commissioners are riding together.
Or two of them, majority?
Or, yeah, two. Yeah, sorry, two. So it could technically be done. I'm not saying that it couldn't, but the minute anybody talks about county business, it's flown.
They have to prove that.
Well, yeah, the burden, the proof would be that they did. I think unless and until somebody can show you did, but there's probably a certain point where if that's happening enough, the AG could theoretically say, we just don't even believe this anymore. But there's really no bright line rule that I can say you can't do that. It's an area that's just fraught with peril.
So Aaron, I'll bring up a point. I hope it's not a crazy point, but we all serve on many boards.
Mhm.
And it's so easy to conflict business with your community and the other boards too. So you're really tangled into all kinds of those situations belonging to the other boards.
And you can talk county business all you want when you're at local Rotary, Kiwanis, whatever. It's the interaction is with your fellow commissioners. So they could all even be in the same Rotary group, for example, and having the same conversation with their table. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the consensus building directly or indirectly between two of you. That's a problem. So I don't want to make light of the car ride thing. I mean, that's always an issue. There's always, there's trips to Topeka and the logistics of that. Every county, every city deals with that, trying to be mindful of public funds while also trying to make sure that we comply with Tacoma. I don't have a right or wrong answer. Obviously, the best practice would be to avoid it just because it's route with peril. But I think the best practice is kind of a case by case. And certainly, the point here is to make sure that if we ever do that, we provide Tacoma. Okay, so we've talked about everything else up to this point. One of the key features of a meeting, if you meet those elements, is it must be open, of course. So any person who requests notice is not only entitled to come, but also attend and observe and hear. And so that openness must be real. It can't be fake. So all aspects of your discussion and interactions must be audible and observable. You can't pass notes to each other during a meeting. You can't text each other or email. Kansas law specifically prohibits voting by secret ballot. So it would not be appropriate for Janelle to say, put your piece of paper indicating your vote into this bucket and I'll read the outcome, just because the public has to have an opportunity to see how each of you voted on everything. Proxy voting is not allowed. That's something that is clearly allowed in a private business where you can delegate your vote to a fellow board member. Not allowed here. If you're not present, you can't vote. Go ahead, Janelle. Some obvious ways you could violate that. This is an example, maybe during a contested rezoning. A slides B a note that says vote no, and then as the vote nears, A catches B's eye and gives a subtle thumbs down under the table, or somebody whispers so that the audience can't hear. Those are all things that violate the openness requirement, and the public can't see those. So that's the problem. There is an AG opinion that talks about commissioners just actually not talking very loud, but they weren't trying to subvert coma. There was a complaint that they just were not talking loud enough. The AG specifically found that was not a violation, but warned them you need to speak up. Okay, go ahead, Sean. Another example, so, we have a pretty well accommodating room here. I don't see a scenario where we would violate it by having overflow that people can't come in, but there are cases maybe where if you have a really, really hot item and we were to schedule the meeting for a tiny back office and say, oh, sorry, we only allow 4 people in, come back next time. That would be another example of violating the openness requirement because the room is just too small. And in that case, you're intentionally trying to prevent people from coming. But it doesn't mean we have to go rent out a convention hall. We don't have to do that. We just have to be reasonable. So in that case, if people could not observe and attend, I would encourage you, let's find a way to live stream it. If it's not required, but that'd be kind of the best practice. Okay, go ahead.
They did just recently have a situation come up at Emporia where there were so many comments and it was unruly, and they said, okay, you've had your say. And they literally had to have someone escorted out.
Oh, wow.
And now, since last week, this happened, or the week before, they changed it where it's virtual. It's virtual only. So they're for safety reasons, they aren't even going to allow an audience.
Well, that goes to another point I should make. Public comment is not required. And this goes for you, City Commission. There are certain Planning Commission items that we have to have a hearing on with public input, but generally it's within your discretion as to how and when to allow citizen comment, either on anything they want or on individual items. The key is if you are allowing it, you have to allow it in an even-handed manner. You can't censor viewpoints. You can't say, well, if you're for this rezoning, come on up, but if not, we don't care about what you have to say. Can't do that, obviously. So that comes up a lot. I think sometimes people think they have an absolute First Amendment right to come up and speak their mind. They don't. But where they do is if you create a forum where you allow speech, then you have to allow it in an even-handed manner. Okay, I think we've already covered that, So really quickly, COMA specifically says that you cannot prohibit cameras or recording devices during a meeting. So if somebody comes and wants to record it, we have to let them. What we can do is have reasonable rules related to that. So if somebody wanted to put a huge camera right in front of your face, we can say, move it back. That's annoying and it's a hazard, but they need to have a reasonable opportunity to record it and both audibly and video. Can't walk the house or try that. So also really quickly, the new requirement is if you voluntarily live stream your meeting, which you don't have to, but if you do, you must live stream all aspects of it. So you can't do an a la carte, we're going to live stream everything up to this hotly contested zoning item, and then we're going to turn it off. It has to be from start to finish. I think if there's a technical failure, that's not a violation, but I think cities were live streaming it, and then I don't know if it was city or county, but there was an example that prompted this legislative change because they were intentionally turning off the live stream when it got to a part that presumably had some reason they didn't want the public to see. Okay. Executive sessions. These are really the only exception to the openness requirement of a meeting. So it allows you, as you know, to close the door, kick everybody out, and have limited discussions if certain elements are made. And the process for doing that is you have to be in an open meeting to begin with. And that could be a study session or a regular meeting. It could be, as long as we're in an open public meeting that the public has been invited to, we can have an executive session. And then a specific motion has to be made, which I'll describe. And then you go into a closed session. You got to limit what you talk about, and then you return to the open. And if a vote is required, you have one. Going into an executive session is always a recess. It is not an adjournment. Recess means you're temporarily pausing it, but the meeting hasn't ended. Adjournment means the meeting has formally ended. One of the requirements of an executive session is you can't take binding action. So you can't approve a contract in an executive session. You can't terminate an employee. You can't hire an employee in an executive session. You can discuss those items and reach an implicit consensus, but you got to come out and take formal public action so that the public can see what you're doing. Go ahead, John. Three things. I know we've talked about this before, but just very important. Three things each motion has to have: the subject, the statutory justification, and the time and place at which you will return to the meeting. And that complete motion must be recorded in the minutes and retained permanently. And that's another example of where you're relying on others to comply with that requirement of COMA. When you approve minutes, which I think we do, right? That's one thing to look out for, because ultimately you are responsible if the minutes don't comply. Okay. Go ahead, Janelle. Just to give a high-level example of an executive session motion, the subject is what you're going to talk about. And, that example there is to discuss the job performance and possible discipline of a non-elected county employee. You don't have to go into so much detail that it defeats the purpose of having the executive session discussion. So, if it was to discuss John Doe's failure to do A, B, and C, that kind of defeats the purpose of this, which is really to protect an individual employee's privacy. That's the recognized policies, and if you have to go into so much detail, then it defeats the purpose. Same is true with attorney-client. We're going in there because if we had a public discussion, we could arguably be waiving the privilege and it could be discoverable. So we try to include as much detail to comply without revealing who and exactly what we're talking about. The justification is, I'll get to this on the next slide, but there's 15 different grounds to have an executive session. Some of them don't even apply to the county. They apply to specialized state boards, but you have to state the specific exception and then the time and place at which you're going to return. So we would typically say for 15 minutes, reconvening in this room at this exact time. Okay. I think this was an example of where just a lot of municipalities go wrong. Say something like, I move that we go into an executive session for personnel. For the ordinary person, that probably sounds sufficient, but it's not stating the subject matter. It's not talking about what you're going to talk about, which was, again, remember, to talk about the potential discipline of a non-elected employee. And really, for personnel isn't compliant either because it doesn't specify that it's to discuss non-elected personnel. It also doesn't say when you're going to resume and where. So those are the things that even well-intentioned happened and can get you in trouble. Okay, go ahead.
So after that executive session's over and they are thinking about discipline, does that need to be after the executive session's over or no?
It depends on whether they intend to take action. So if they have the conversation and say, I'm glad that we learned that, we know about that, we'll take that into account in the next review, no actions required. Typically in our form of government, Janelle as the county administrator is tasked with kind of managing personnel. So ultimately that decision would be hers, but sometimes she might go in and make the county commission aware of it. But if there's any need to take action to bind the county to something, such as hiring, firing, county administrator, not to pick on you, but that's kind of the main personnel role of the county commission. You'd absolutely need to do that publicly. So if that decision were made to terminate the county administrator, you come out of an executive session and then somebody has to move to do that. You can't just agree to do that and then after the meeting say, oh, by the way, we decided you're gone. That would be a major COMA violation because you've taken binding action in an executive session.
Good question.
Yeah.
If they move to discuss non-elected personnel, do they have to have the elected official in that meeting, or can they discuss non-elected personnel under that elected official without the elected official being present?
Actually, they're not allowed to discuss elected. Did I have something up there? If I did, I apologize.
No, but somebody that works under Jerry
Okay, yeah.
as the sheriff.
Great point. And that's probably worth clarifying. So the non-elected personnel, first and foremost, you can't discuss elected officials. So we couldn't have that to discuss the sheriff. But other personnel,
If you want to talk about Vaughn.
yeah, you could have, absolutely, you don't have to be in there, but they likely want you there. You can have anyone who is a resource and helpful to enable discussion attend. So typically we would have the department head come in because they're the most knowledgeable and have direct supervision of whatever is at issue. You definitely can't have just mere onlookers. So if you had no idea what was going on and you just come in to just observe, still, I think given the role, that would be appropriate for you to come in. But a member of the public or just a random department head that has no insight or information about it would not be appropriate. But it's not absolutely required that you come in.
Can they exclude an elected official if they're going to discuss that elected official's employee?
I think they could. I don't know why you would. It wouldn't be a very productive conversation. I haven't ever seen anything that touches on that, but there's no absolute right to attend. It is the county commission's executive session, and they get to control who comes in. In my opinion, without finding any other research on that. Okay, so this is really quickly. most common justifications, I said there's 15 of them. They're up there on the left, the ones that you would most commonly encounter, which would be personnel, attorney-client, employer-employee negotiations, preliminary acquisition of real estate, and then security measures. There's some other ones that you can see in the middle that you technically could encounter. And then on the right, there's some that just could in no plausible way ever apply to you because they apply to like state domestic violence or things like that. Okay. Really quickly, if we're going in for personnel, we've got to talk about specific personnel. We can't talk about larger issues like budgets or elected officials or group pay plans. I'm going to keep going here, Janelle. Just to
Okay.
We already just talked about that. There we go. Attorney-client, you've always got to have an attorney present. You can't just go in without me present. And I could be present via phone or in person, but there's some opinions out there that if I have an opinion that I've shared with you, you can't just go in and talk about it without me present. A lot of times, as you know, there's just certain subjects where we got to go in and talk about a lawsuit or talk about a personnel matter. And in order to have a productive conversation, you've got to give some background. And so there's some authority that talks about how far you can go with that. And it is permissible if taking those non-confidential facts out of it would make it impossible to have a coherent discussion in an executive session. It's appropriate to bring those in and talk about them in an executive session, even though they're not technically directly related to what we're in there for. So anytime we can, we try to have a public discussion on public items and then go into an executive session for the confidential stuff. But there's always just an implicit level of factual information you need to share in order for everyone to be grounded in what we're about to discuss. And that's not technically a violation. Okay, go ahead, Janelle. There is actually no rule that you have to keep executive session discussions confidential, at least under COMA. Boards, your commission could have a policy about that and then spell out what happens if you don't, but COMA doesn't prescribe any consequences if you come out and talk about what you discussed in an executive session.
I have a question on that. So can a member of the public ask what was discussed and can we discuss it?
In a meeting or out of a meeting?
Out of a meeting.
They can ask.
Like if they came up and go, hey, what did you guys talk about? Executive session.
Well, anybody can ask anything, of course. I would tell you, don't ever discuss it outside of what the motion described we're going to discuss. There's a reason. Each statutory justification has its own reason. So personnel is intended to protect employees' privacy. We might be discussing a serious accusation against an employee. Doesn't mean it's right, but we're in there because if we just have that, it could be embarrassing. It could hurt their job prospects. The attorney-client privilege one is one I would tell you is very important not to discuss out in the open because if you do, it can be a waiver, which then means in a lawsuit, like if we were going to talk about a lawsuit, some of the weaknesses for the county's position, for example, and then you go out and tell your friend about it, now all of a sudden you could be deposed about that executive session because we've waived the privilege. That's an extreme example, but that's the thing that, we try to avoid, waiving the privilege that we otherwise have when I give you legal advice. So you can have your own policy about confidentiality and what happens if you breach it, but COMA doesn't prescribe it. Okay, really quickly, I'm going to give you just one example here. I have several in case we had time, but this is another one where I described it as a botched motion, but this happens a lot. So somebody might just say, I make a motion to go into executive session for legal purposes. There's obviously no duration. We don't have a subject matter. We don't have when we're going to come back. So the corrected motion there is on the right. It's a mouthful, but what we started doing is anytime we know we're going to have an executive session, Janelle gets with me and we make sure it's compliant, put it on the agenda, and then Jennifer can take that and copy it into the minutes, assuming that's what was actually read during the meeting. and that ensures compliance. I have several examples in the slides, which I'd be happy to talk through, but I think we're running short on time. So you can just see examples of how even a well-meaning motion running afoul of those requirements. Okay. Really quickly, we have to limit the discussion to the stated subject matter. It is possible, COMA allows you to discuss different subjects as long as they're within the same justification. So we could talk about 3 different county employees. What we couldn't do is have an executive session and talk about personnel matter, an attorney-client matter, trade secret matter. Those all have to be separate. We would have to come out and make a new motion for each of those justifications. We're in here. We should always be looking out, is the conversation straying? We got to limit it to what we can and said we're going to talk about. And, if I'm in there and I see it going out of the lanes, I'll say that and we can get it back in. Okay. Janelle, let's go forward really quickly. While you're doing that, there's just no minutes in an executive session. We don't take minutes. It's confidential.
Can you take notes?
You can take notes. Yep. I had a whole section devoted here to the intersection between CORA, Kansas Open Records Act, and COMA. There's like 45 exceptions under CORA, where if an open records request comes in, we can discretionarily close it and say you don't get that record. One example is drafts, memorandums in which policies or opinions are expressed. So it could be possible that Janelle, outside of an executive session, but maybe shares a memo with you about a new proposed policy via email. Those, if somebody submits an open records request for that, we can say you don't get that. That's one of the exceptions. It's a memo in which a policy is expressed. However, there's an exception to that, and that is if you mention it during an open public meeting. So I won't get into all the nuances of that, but if you ever get something and it says don't discuss this in a meeting, that's the reason, because you can effectively waive that protection, and we don't have the ability to say public doesn't get that. The reason for that is not the policy reason behind that is it's called the deliberative process privilege, and it basically means that staff need the ability to brainstorm, think creatively. Their preliminary ideas aren't always their final ones, and if every little thought that they had became a public record and subject to public scrutiny, it could just be ineffective. Okay. I will wrap it up so we can move on to other stuff. Maybe really quickly, Janelle, just wrap it up, go to the violation section. Yeah, okay. So, COMA is obviously a serious matter, and violations are usually avoidable. There are penalties. There are different ways it can be enforced. One of the consequences is that whatever action you take in an improper meeting can be voided. So if you were to have a meeting that wasn't properly noticed and you were to vote on a very significant matter, that action could be voided, which means made ineffective. And, in most cases, that's just one of the many consequences. But if it was a time-sensitive matter, like a settlement of a lawsuit or something, that action can be voided and completely ineffective. And then there can also be civil penalties. And again, those apply to you as commissioners. They don't apply to those that you're looking for help in compliance with. So that's why it's just so important that, you stay on top of this, and then we all do our best to help you comply. AG typically has an administrative enforcement avenue that you would typically see where we just work with them, and if a violation occurred, we acknowledge it and maybe agree to pay fees, fines, take training, things like that. If you're not cooperative, or if it's a really egregious violation, they can get into discovery, and that's where I said, do subpoenas, take your deposition, take your sworn testimony. So that's not meant to scare you. That's just the reality of if you're really non-compliant, that's the direction it can go. Okay. All right. So I'll wrap it up there on that note. If there's any questions, feel free to ask now or or call. I have slides if you want to see the other ones we didn't cover. There's some other material we didn't cover, but I feel like generally we covered most of the main topics we wanted to discuss.
Good.
Any questions? Sure.
I got one question about the agenda. That consider if it be made, like if we want to say on the agenda, vehicle inventory.
What was that?
Like vehicle inventory or vehicle purchase. So that would be specific as to the department that that's for and it's intended to be paid.
There's no requirement that it be specific. I would say being uniform and the level of specificity would be the main thing. And if it looked like you were trying to if you're very specific on everything and then general on something, I suppose that could technically be a violation. But really the only requirement is generally described so that someone who's wanting to know if a particular item is going to be discussed could reasonably tell. I think your example is probably sufficient. Vehicle purchase.
And a gentleman asked me the other night.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be super specific.
Aaron?
Thank you. I'll move this back.
Can you email it to you at some point?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay.
Be good to have. I think we're putting that together. Did you put all that together?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive, man. Good. Give your report.
Me?
Yeah. You're on the schedule anyway.
Yeah.
Oh,
Your department update.
yeah. I was like, wait, what?
I was wondering what you.
With this,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's be honest.
Working out on you though.
I know.
Yeah. So Jennifer Gayton, Dickinson County Clerk Election Officer. Wait a minute. Total turnout for the August 4th primary is 4,497 votes. I just updated that yesterday because we had 13 mail ballots to process. That includes 3,455 votes on election day, 921 early voting in person, and then 121 mail ballots received. We did send out 174, and there is a 3-day grace period, so we are continuing to wait till tomorrow if we receive any mail ballots that have been postmarked on or before election day. We also have 72 provisionals so far. And if you want to see the full detail of this report, you can go onto our website at www.dkcoks.gov and go to the County Clerk and Elections page. Click on elections and it'll be under results. I will update that report again tomorrow if we receive any mail ballots today or tomorrow. That is it for me.
Okay. Thank you.
So the mail ballots say they came in yesterday,
We've already processed them.
they've been processed and
And I updated the link that I
it's
had
updated
posted.
any
Yep.
additional numbers.
And I also updated the link that was associated with our Facebook page.
But the one you get tomorrow, as long as it's dated in that 3-day window, will still be counted. But if it's dated tomorrow, the 7th, it doesn't count.
No, it has to be on or before election day.
So I-
Postmarked.
Postmark.
So I'll have it on my calendar. We'll review the provisional ballots to see which ones.
Yep, next Friday at 9.
The total, and it'll be next Friday.
14th at 9 a.m. Here.
Oh, also, I should mention the audit is tomorrow at
What's
noon.
that look?
Because I have like 3 things
Oh,
on the 14th. What time are we starting?
9.
9 a.m.
Okay. I have a noon deal, but I'll be done by.
So,
then.
put your November one on in your calendar too, if you don't mind, which will be November The 13th, it's on our sheet right here. It's gonna be November the 13th. Yes.
You have 72 provisionals so far to go through. So I can't guarantee you'll get out here by noon. Just gonna go ahead and mention that.
We start at what time?
9.
We'll start. Probably.
So basically, looking at each of us represent roughly 8,000 people. That's a small percentage of voters.
Yeah, you represent between 5 and 6.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but-
in general it was,
In general, exactly.
wow, that's not very, kind
Oh,
of,
what'd you say, 32%?
Oh, yes, the total voter turnout is 32.39%. I failed to mention that.
oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
I might consider having someone fill in for me.
Okay,
The one on-
we, on this coming Friday,
Yeah, on the 14th.
on the 14th, we already have to have somebody fill in for Ron since he's on the ballot. And Marcus is gonna do that, so we'll see about finding somebody to fill in.
She's looking at you, Aaron. I don't- No, she just looked that way.
We'll find somebody. I think we can do that, don't you?
It doesn't have to be a commissioner necessarily, does it?
I
It has to be a registered voter.
I need to find that out.
Okay, yeah.
If we have, if we don't have.
Typically, the county commissioners are the canvassers.
Okay,
So I need
Because
to
we have
find
to
out
vote to approve it, but we don't approve it until,
on
we have to
canvas.
approve it on the canvas day.
Yes. So let me call Secretary of State. on
yeah,
that.
just to be safe. You want to do that right now?
I wonder how quickly we had it finished last time. It seems like we were out of here before noon.
Yeah, but it
We
just
only had
depends.
like 6.
You
last time.
got to review them all. So it
It's
could take
72
some
this
time. I'm not saying it won't.
Wasn't it like 6 or 7 provincial?
Okay, find out what you need to find out, and then let me.
I think we're 72.
You have
So
72.
the other thing is, I guess I wouldn't have to be there till 12:50. Anyway, it just, I ended up with some conflicts that day. I had those.
Are you out of town or something?
No, I'll be in town, but I told someone I was gonna
Yeah.
Let's
take them to lunch.
let's go find out for sure. Have Jennifer do that.
Yeah, let me work through that, so. Yeah, I actually line up the program.
Well, I'll be here.
Well, it may be that I have to be here because you have to have a vote.
We're gonna have to. I think we have to have a quorum to do this.
I need to find that out.
Yeah. So
That's where I'm
so can
conflicted.
Ron not participate in the count, but participate in the vote?
No,
No,
you can't be a
It's on the
part of it at
ballot.
all. It's on the ballot.
So how's that different? Because when two of us were on the ballot before,
I don't know if I wasn't the clerk then, so I don't
And
remember.
there might be
I didn't
different
deal with it.
lines.
Yeah, so I want to just confirm before I.
There's
say anything.
always,
That'd have
I mean,
been
every
before
county, there's
I
always.
got elected then. That's a good question.
Yeah, it may
What
be
happened
fine.
4
I
years
just
ago?
want
We
to,
had Marsha and Marcus do it one year.
I just want to confirm.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Craig and Laverne and I, all
Yes.
three of us did it.
Mhm.
Now, does it have to be a commissioner voting?
Well, that's what she's got to ask
Okay.
her. So, but
Or
since
can we
there's
have
that-
another
And
elected
the
official
canvasser.
Right.
be able to vote?
And we couldn't do it at the next meeting either, so, because you have to do it the day of the canvas.
Could we have Jerry or somebody?
Yeah.
I guess that's the question.
Well, Marcus is gonna fill in for Ron.
Okay.
He's already got that set, so.
Are we,
No proxy ballots. But,
are we taking?
You know what he mentioned,
Reset.
there used to be.
yeah, we can.
There's an old story of a true city commissioner, well, this is decades ago. And someone said, you know, did you have more power when you were mayor or when you were than being a commissioner? And he said, well, no, he said, actually, as a commissioner, you have authority or more power. And they said, well, how's that? And the other commissioners was always confused on some of the issues. And so she'd always whisper to him, what do I do? Oh, no. So he always said he had 2 votes.
Oh.
Statute of limitations around.
There you go.
Well, I mean, that was 40 years ago. So,
And not here.
here.
That was almost.
We're gonna go ahead and recess for about 16 minutes. We'll resume our regular meeting at 11 a.m. this morning. Thank you, everybody. Missed the education session, Arden.
What?
You missed our education session.
What'd you learn?
We learned all about Open Meetings Act. COMA. Kansas Open Meetings Act.
Oh.
So we publish, you know, like now we have a meeting every Thursday or so on, but you can't have, there's guidelines where you can't just kind of say, well, let's get together and meet a coffee and we'll figure out what we're going to do. That's legal too.
Yeah.
Okay. Good day, everyone. Interesting person. Try to be friendly.
No.
I'll bet. Won't be friendly anymore. I don't know, that's twice you've kind of done that to me. I'm just trying to be friendly. Isabel. Very well.
You getting much rain your way?
10
Tim?
yesterday, it's 10 gauge. I didn't even look at it this morning. I don't think we had any overnight.
Felt like it was raining this morning for me coming in from the east. The windshield kept getting wet, but it was, I think, all that dew on the outside in the
I don't
fog.
think we had any overnight.
Yeah. You're helping that corn out, though. That corn's growing pretty nice.
Corn's great.
Yeah.
Got ours down the river, put the side on it.
You guys,
Got a pass. Had a lot of feed. I don't know how much.
but you'll go through it.
We got a lot.
Yeah. You know, we hear of all these diseases in our food today in America here, and makes you be pretty thankful of our producers out in our own country that produce food for us and us having to buy it somewhere else, you
There's a
know.
new thing going around. Is it lettuce or something?
Oh, yeah.
Some bug in the lettuce?
Lettuce and some one of those jalapenos or something too. There's about 3 companies at least now. They got loans. I think about all of it's coming out of Mexico.
Yeah. I know before the COVID, I sure enjoyed the restaurants with the salad bars and all that kind of thing, but you know, we don't have that stuff anymore. I enjoyed the restaurants where you could go in and pick what you wanted and eat. Now it's all served to you, you know.
Yeah.
Martin? You guys doing, you got turnout in the fall? I guess you probably don't pasture too much, do you? You guys pasture in the fall or?
Pasture.
Yeah,
Oh, we grow those fields year round.
okay. Do you calve at all? You guys calve too?
No, we don't have calves. It's just like cattle,
Gotcha.
400 to 600 pounds. Raise them and feed them, then send them to feed.
Talking to my buddy John, I was kind of wondering.
We got about 6 of those fields.
The city commissioner.
Oh,
I came over to see one of my first county commission meetings.
Well, we're glad you're here, definitely, and I'll give you my card, so.
And I'm also the Republican committee man for the first precinct.
Oh, nice.
So visiting my first ever county commission meetings.
Well, I'm glad you're here, that's great.
Hey, Larry, man, I've met you at some of the Republican meetings. and stuff. Yeah, I'm a committee chairman, first precinct in Harrington, also a Harrington City Commissioner.
Please meet you. Bet. You guys just got a new manager, right?
He's starting on the 8th.
I heard that.
Yeah. Anthony Roy.
Yeah, Natalie was talking a little bit about it with the EDC.
Yeah.
Natalie Morato. Have you met her?
Mhm.
Have you met Natalie Morato?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, she's been in Harrington several times.
I hope that's, I'd love to have, if you want, I chair that committee or that organization. So
I used to be the director of the Harrington Chamber of
Oh, really?
Commerce. Then I went to work for the EDC in Junction City.
oh, wow. You know about it. Well, I guess
Yeah.
where I'm going there, I hope we're helping out. So, I mean, if you ever want to talk,
Mhm.
I have an open mind. Let me see if I got a card to give you.
Yeah, I retired out of the Army in 2000. Then I worked with the Harrington Chamber of Commerce with the Junction City, then got a job with federal government and just retired. So now,
What was your MOS?
huh?
What was your MOS?
73 Charlie, finance.
So then you got to work for the Department of Defense then, didn't you?
Yeah. I loved working for the military. And then when I worked civil service, I was in human resources. When I was in the Army, I hated human resources.
Oh, business part.
Yeah. Well, it's a good place. So you retired from Fort Riley too then?
Yeah, well, actually, I worked for the USDA. I worked from home for the
Oh, yeah.
but right before COVID. I was going to retire before COVID, and they said, well, let you work home permanently and give you a promotion if you stay. I said,
Wow.
okay.
That's my arm there.
And then I was going to retire again. They said, how about we give you a retention bonus to stay? I said, okay. And then when Trump come up with, the getting rid of everybody, I left in April and got my full pay and allowances until September when I retired. They gave me another $66,000 not to do nothing.
There you go. That's it. Yeah.
I'm over in Woodbine every Saturday morning.
Drinking coffee.
Well, we eat breakfast at
Yeah.
Nighttime Cafe every Saturday morning.
Yeah, well, good for
With
you.
Jim Davis. And
Uh-huh. Well, good.
thought I'd come over and see what's going on.
Absolutely. You bet.
And invite you to any of our meetings that you want to come to. We have our commission meetings every first and third Tuesday.
Good deal. I was going to a lot of their meetings up there and they got to the point where they didn't really need me around,
Huh?
So, yeah. They're Harrington doing a good job. That Main Street is looking nice up there.
We got a lot of work to do.
Well, but I tell you, it looks tremendously a lot better than it used to.
Yeah.
Nice town.
If we can get our streets fixed, would be better.
Yeah, it's an expensive deal, though. We're all faced with that. Yeah.
All right, so
Hi, how are you?
Hi, sir. I'm Larry Mann, City Commissioner in Harrington.
Oh, okay. Larry, nice to meet you. You're related to Tracy, man, the congressman,
No,
are you?
I'm originally from Kentucky.
Oh, okay. And he's from Kansas.
I'm gonna
He's
get
like
away. So.
like 4 or 5 generations Kansas.
Yep, yep. No, I'm from Kentucky. The military brought me to Kansas.
Okay. And so you're a
Married a-
elected commissioner?
This is well, it's the second time I've been on the commission. I was on the commission 2000 to 2005.
Okay.
And then I just got elected. This is my first year on
You
this.
didn't learn your lesson the first time.
Well, when they do stuff and it make me mad, I go up and tell them about it. I said, the only way I can change it is to get on the commission.
Well, and once you're on the commission too, you get more alert or aware of certain things.
Yeah. And I still attended all the commission meetings and stuff
Okay.
when I wasn't even elected, and I try to keep informed. And,
Well, thank you for your service too.
yeah, you know,
When does your
So
new?
you're part of Big Red One?
yes, I was with the first finance up in Fort Riley in 86 to 87.
Okay.
When did your new city manager start?
Pardon me?
When does your new city manager start?
September the 8th.
Okay, nice, nice, good.
Yeah.
Did you have quite a few applicants?
Yeah. We interviewed 4.
Okay,
But we had like, I think it was 13, maybe a total, 9 to 13. I can't remember exactly how many there were.
nice.
I'll stop and talk to Natalie, but I
Yeah.
mentioned it before.
Looking forward to get him on ground and get started.
Yes, yes, I think Megan's probably looking forward to that as well.
Just jump in.
You know, well, it's just a lot.
Yeah, it is.
They had a nice turnout at Sunbelt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know about it. So, but I mean, I'd like to be on the list.
Yeah, I think you can actually go to the website.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Attended the league's training.
Okay.
I mean, I should probably. but I-
The league does a nice job on quite a few things.
Yeah. I,
Andrea won a cooler.
when I was on
Oh,
before,
really?
I got,
They had a,
went through all their
they
classes.
had a good
Oh, uh-huh.
day and- and,
The only thing I didn't do was testify for the house and stuff, you know, complete all of their training.
Wow. Well, maybe you'll get a chance now. It's not all it's cracked up to be sometimes, so.
Just back to you, Marcus.
Okay, and he was gonna get in front of, yeah.
Okay, it's really just one.
Yeah, oh, one is
All
all
in
you
one
need because they're
page, yeah.
all in one? Okay, I'll make sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
she got the drawing. That's a pretty good deal.
That's pretty cool. Your daughter did that?
Yeah,
Nice.
well, she attended and. I don't know,
Is she still working
it's good.
over at Insolvent?
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't.
I'd
I've been to one meeting, I think.
I'd like to figure out how to.
One meeting where?
At Solomon.
Oh, uh-huh.
I'm trying to. I
Probably
probably,
this person I've ever met.
I can
I told
probably,
her today. I don't know if you heard about it. I told her. I told her she's real.
huh? I could
I
probably
don't
do,
know, I need to let it go.
I could probably do that. Right. So we lined up Wyatt Thompson to come
Oh, nice.
speak at Rotary.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I mean, he'll give the inside scoop of K-State football,
Yes.
all the, and then it'll be stuff you'd never read about or hear about.
Exactly.
And yet it's,
Mhm. Well, and
I mean, I guess I can walk in the program.
let's have her check, just to be safe.
I
but-
think we'd find out, but
Yeah.
I've invited a couple of people, and so okay, I'll take you out for lunch that day. Oh, by the way, I won't be there.
It was foggy this morning. It was like, super.
Probably last night when we got home,
Yeah,
4:10 in the morning.
well, yeah, I bet it was. 90 days, we should have rain. Give or take a little bit.
What do we mean?
When it's foggy, then 90 days usually we have rain. Farmer's Almanac.
It was on there, all right.
Well, and Marshall, so.
Could be a clear sky.
We're up to 12 inches on the state on average.
Dang.
Rainfall.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
That is. During the drought that some of us are in.
I think everywhere's that way, but.
No.
That's it. All right. I call this meeting to order. If we'd all rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we'd all remain standing for the prayer, Gordon Peterson.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you with thanks this morning for the beautiful weather that you sent last week, especially for all the people involved in the fair. And thank you for the big crowds that came out for the rodeo and all the things that took place at the prayer, at the parade and the fair itself. And we thank you for all the volunteers that helped that make that happen. Heavenly Father, I just thank you too for our country, for the freedoms that we have, for the privilege that we have to vote, and that we can elect our commissioners and officers and people to represent us in state and local and national government. We're a very privileged country, Lord. Help us not to take that for granted. Heavenly Father, I thank you for all those people that, especially our county people, that make things happen here in the county. And we have road workers and secretaries and all the employees that we have. And I thank you for them. And also for the city and government, state. Thank you for the public servants that we have and for those people that work. Heavenly Father, I just pray that you would give us wisdom now. We've got a general election coming up. I pray that you would help each of us to discern the truth about the candidates that will be voting in our general election. And I thank you for them and just pray that they would be able to stand in front of you, Lord, and say, we told the truth and we did the best we could to run our campaign. Heavenly Father, just be with the commissioners this morning and decisions that they'll make, guide and direct them. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your Son, Jesus, that we might have eternal life. And thank you for all the freedoms that we have here in this country, that we can worship you freely. And Lord, I just pray all this now in Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you, Arden. Went over the approval for the agenda today. Pretty short agenda. We have a proclamation designating Dickinson County as Purple Heart County. We have a notice of award for 1060 1900 Avenue Bridge. Any discussion before we motion to approve? Or any additions? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving down to the consent agenda, we have the minutes for the July 30th meeting in the packet. Accounts payable of $1,284,006.83. Paying checks of $819.44. Health insurance for $482.20. Utilities, $13,934.77. Abated tax of $1,959.14. SD security wire for $4,980. Indigent defense for $11,600. Poll workers for $9,927.29. And special check for $45,840. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would so move.
Moved.
I'll second.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Commissioner comments and committee reports. I'll go ahead and kick off this week. I met briefly with Natalie. We're starting to come up with a cadence on how to kind of plan out the agenda for the EDC, moving forward with the strategic plan. We had that, getting a lot of things moving. I think you guys are starting to see a lot of the events in the community take place. So I think I've said it before, but I think we're really heading down a good path over there. And I'm really excited for what we're going to start working on. So in addition to that, I was in Sioux Falls for part of this week on a business meeting. Other than that, I don't believe, the fair. How can I forget? That was really cool. We picked up some sponsors that are huge sponsors. It was a really good rodeo. I don't know how the Derby went. I didn't go to that, but I thought it was amazing. And it looks like we're like I said, top 4 or 3rd biggest rodeo in Kansas now. So I hope that keeps growing because I thought it was great. The rides were great too. We went on the rides with my kids. So that was a lot of fun. That is all I have for my report. Lynn?
I'll just add on to your comment on the EDC. They did have a gathering, open house at Sunbelt over at Solomon. And from what I understand, it was very well attended. And I think it's a good way of showing appreciation to some of these businesses in our county, but also it gives them a little bit of an opportunity to tell their story. And they're one of the larger employers in the county, so we certainly appreciate what they do. And of course, that used to be Solomon Corp prior to Sunbelt buying them maybe 3-4 years ago, maybe longer. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Ron?
Spent my time at the jail, juvenile detention center Tuesday, and worked out some issues there. And we'll have a meeting coming up this next month here to decide what we're going to do with the excess people, excess children we have in the facility. So we have a lot of decisions to make, and that'll be made then. So everything's going good. I'm glad we're seeing some moisture that we've had. Our crops, our corn, everything's looking good. The crops got out of the fields pretty fair. Yields were pretty fair. So I think we've got a lot to be thankful for.
Thank you, Ron. I'll just ditto that. On the way to Sioux Falls, very few cornfields I saw that looked bad.
Yeah.
So good deal. I don't know if that excites everybody else, but that excites me. So. All right, moving on to the proclamation. We have a proclamation for designating Dickinson County as a Purple Heart County. Get down there. Who requested this would be my question.
It was sent in to Jennifer actually from, hang on, I have my notes on that.
The general?
Yes.
Okay.
Asking if we'd be willing to participate in that. So.
I'll go ahead and read the proclamation here then. Whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest military decoration in present use, originally established as a badge of military merit by General George Washington on August 7, 1782. And the Purple Heart is awarded to the members of the United States Armed Forces who have been wounded or killed in the action of defense of our nation. And the citizens of Dickinson County, Kansas have a deep appreciation and enduring gratitude for the service and sacrifice of all members of the United States Armed Forces. The Purple Heart recipients have paid a great price in defense of our freedoms we enjoy, and their courage and sacrifice deserve lasting recognition. And the state of Kansas was officially designated a Purple Heart state on March 12, 2026, reinforcing a statewide commitment to honoring combat wounded veterans. And the Military Order of the Purple Heart works to foster an environment of goodwill among combat wounded veterans and their families, promote patriotism, and ensure that those who have sacrificed are never forgotten. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Dickinson County, Kansas, hereby designates Dickinson County as the Purple Heart County and honors all Purple Heart recipients for their bravery, sacrifice, and unwavering dedication to our nation. Be it further proclaimed that on August 7th of each year shall be recognized as the Purple Heart Day in Dickinson County, and all citizens are encouraged to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies, display of American flag, and the expressions of gratitude and recognition. Okay. In witness whereof, the Board of County Commissioners, I guess we need to wait.
The proclamation is correct.
Yep. Okay. Do any discussion, and do I have a motion to approve the proclamation?
I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation.
I'll second it.
Motion in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. So tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Do they want us to, just side note, they want us to fly the flag at like half mast for
We
that?
didn't say that. We just need to submit this to their organization and then we'll be added to the Purple Heart Trail National Registry once the proclamation has been signed. So we could fly the flags like that if you like.
Like it makes sense, especially those who were killed.
But isn't that an order of the governor only?
Oh,
That is true.
The
No,
governor?
it's not.
Yeah.
I think he's right, but I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Well, sometimes if a special event is taking place, then for that event, and so for example, on the Gold Star family,
Mhm.
the day that event took place, they raised the flag and then took it back down to half mast
Okay,
and then left it that way for the remainder of the day.
of the day.
So I think there's probably some discretion in there to do that.
Okay.
But
We can check with that general.
it's not for the whole
Right.
county or city to do that, but if we choose to do that with ours in conjunction, we could.
Okay.
Maybe just ask the general, see what he thinks.
Yep.
I would think he'd be maybe an authority on that,
Mhm.
being a general and all.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the public comment section for today. If County Administrator General Dr. Milford read the rules, please.
For the Open Meetings Act, KSA 75-4317 and 75-4318A, as the elected board, the county commission is not allowed to meet or make any decisions without posting the meeting. They are only allowed to act on items on the agenda which they set. During their regular meeting, the county commission may allow for public comments on items not listed on the approved agenda. It is at the discretion of the county commission if they allow comments on agenda items. If you wish to provide comments, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address. If you are online, raise your hand and we will unmute you. Please state your name and address. Each person may speak for 3 minutes. The allotted time will start after the speaker has given his or her name and address. Public comment shall be addressed to the county commission only and not to the speaker or the audience. Only the county commission will be permitted to ask the speaker questions. The public comment period is not a back and forth discussion with the county commission. You should make your views and input known to them, but it is not a time to ask them questions. You should not expect them to respond to your comments. Comments may express support or agreement with the previous speakers, but in the interest of time, please do not repeat the same information. You may state something to the effect of your name and address and you agree with the previous speaker. It is important to maintain a respectful, non-threatening atmosphere for anyone who would like to speak. Please do not engage in such actions as cheering, booing, clapping, insults, threats, etc.
I can't see the meeting deal, but do we have anybody with their hands raised?
We do not have anybody with their hands raised. Go to webinar updated and it doesn't work quite the same as the other one, but no, we don't have anybody with their hands raised right now.
But we are recording.
Yes, yes. We're going to change that too. So just FYI.
Good.
Yes.
No comments. We'll go ahead and move to reports from county officers. County Administrator Janelle Dockendorf.
Commissioners, the Safe Streets for All will have a kickoff meeting here coming up on the 26th. So we reached out to community members across the county and asked them to participate in this. And we're going to be looking at intersections, crash data, things like that across the county and see where we could utilize grant dollars if we apply and receive them. So we'll start that process. Martin was out and participated in a pre-pour meeting on the 1160 1100 Avenue Bridge, and they're starting the pour today. They got the forms in, so there'll be a 28-day cure period. Then they'll have to finish up putting up the guardrails and the approaches and whatnot. So September, knock on wood, we'll have that bridge open. So that will be good news for everybody. They completed the chip seal on West First Street from Van Buren to Fair Road. They worked with the city on that, so that was good news. And if you hadn't noticed, the paint striping has started. They've already completed the 90 miles of yellow striping, and they'll start working on the white stripe because the paint is now in. And our Safety and Wellness Committee, they are planning for our staff development day that's coming up in October. So we've got some good things on our agenda. We're looking forward to that. So, and this just a reminder that goes to our work comp modifier. If we have a safety and wellness committee, then that helps with our rates. So it's a good thing that we do that.
West 14th, right?
No, they went, they went from West First Street, from Van Buren to Fair Street, to Fair Road, pardon me.
Okay,
Yeah, they started
gotcha.
at First Street and moved.
Any questions for Janelle? County Council, Aaron Martin?
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you for participating in the COMA training earlier today. As always, reach out with any questions, and I understand I'll send you a copy of that presentation. I am going to pass around and have you sign a written statement just confirming that you participated in 1 hour of training. We'll get that on file with the AG's office so that they know we did that and are in good standing with them. It's not something you are approving as the commission per se, so I don't believe this requires any sort of vote amongst you, but I did just want to pass around in the context of an open public meeting. Otherwise, things are going well, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Aaron. You put on a good presentation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Sign this. Well, we can go to notices of communications. County Clerk Jennifer Gayton.
I'm just going to repeat what I said in the work session. We had a 32.39% turnout in the counties, which included 3,455 votes on election day, 921 early in-person voters, 121 by mail received, which is a grand total of 4,497 votes cast. We do have 72 provisionals so far, and 174 mail ballots were sent out. And another addition to that, audit is tomorrow at noon here at the county courthouse in the commission room.
And the canvas.
The canvas is next Friday at 9 a.m. Also in the county commissioner rooms.
Thank you. Any more notices or communications? Thank you, Jennifer. No introduction resolutions. We do have some other business. Talked about this in last week's study session. It's a notice for the award of 1060 1900 Avenue Bridge. In that discussion, there's, and the public can look at this stuff, there's 2 bids on there. Aaron Martin, the Highway Road and Bridge Department head, had indicated maybe not laying ass. Martin Tannehill, sorry. I went to bed at like 2:30 last night. Just
I mean, Aaron may not want road and bridge.
yeah, I don't know why I said Aaron. Fresh on my mind, man. Anyway, sorry about that. Martin Tannehill. He had indicated that we probably didn't need to lay the hot mix asphalt down and that we would rock the road. I think that would save us approximately $203,750, actually a little more than that. About $223,750. So with that being said, the base bid is what we would be allocating. The lowest base bid for that job is $1,995,800.
That's the engineer's estimate.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So what would we be authorizing then? Let me ask that question.
The $2,010,953.72. So the second one there, next to the 1.99.
I apologize.
We had several bidders, and that bid was from,
That was from King Construction Company.
okay, out of Heston.
Let me redo this then. I did it all wrong. Okay. So that was the engineering estimate. So the actual low bid, as Commissioner Lynn Peterson pointed out, was King Construction Company. That bid comes in at $2,10,953.72. On the asphalt side, without doing that, we removed about $207,990 of expense. With that being said, do we have a motion to approve the bid from King Construction for $2,010,953.72?
I would make the motion that we go ahead and approve the low bid from King Construction on that bridge. 1900 Avenue Bridge.
So moved,
I'll second it.
seconded. Any more discussion?
I was pleased with the fact that what the engineer estimate came in was pretty close and in line with what they were able to do. And, sometimes that trend isn't always that way. So, and it helped that we had some competitive bids out there. So,
Considering that this was looked at in 23, I mean, and we're in 26, yes.
Big project, but we know we need to replace the bridge. Pretty much a one-lane bridge on a very busy intersection in our county. So the need is definitely there. With that said, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. If you will let Martin know that the bid is accepted.
Will do. Thank you.
Any other business for discussion today before we adjourn? Absolutely.
Did you want me to touch base on that county canvas, or do you want to wait till next Thursday's work session? Because I didn't know.
Did you get the information?
If you want to talk about it now, you're more than welcome. I think you're probably going to have to repeat it next week, though.
That's fine.
However you want to do it.
So in the event, if one of you guys are absent from serving on the board, the remaining members of the county canvassers appoint somebody there. And then in the event that both of you or two of you are gone, the remaining member appoints person to fulfill that position as well.
for the vote.
Mhm.
Okay.
In consultation with me, it says in the statute.
Okay.
I didn't know if it needs to be in a regular meeting. It doesn't really say, maybe a,
This one does.
It's just it's announced in the public meeting that that's,
yeah. I would say.
Well, you could review that with Aaron and then confirm next week.
I would almost
I would,
request that.
I would say because it's county business that we would have to put it in the regular meeting.
I recommend that.
Yeah. But that's just what the statute had said.
Okay. We can appoint people.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you didn't think you could fulfill the duties that day because your other appointment,
Mhm.
we may need to appoint somebody there,
Okay.
right?
I'll get back with you pretty quick on that.
All right.
That should be a topic probably for next week and study them too. And then
Okay.
maybe in the regular.
And since we had talked about it, I don't know if you wanted a little update on.
No, that's great. Thank you. Any other matters for discussion today?
I do appreciate the fact, Jennifer, that you're able to check with the Secretary of State so quickly and plus get information, because that relationship is certainly helpful. And I think sometimes people just like to know that you kind of have backup on it and
Yes.
such.
All right. With no further discussion, I would motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We adjourn, everyone. Thank you for coming. And have a good day.
Let me check the signs before you take off.